So today we are going to discuss from the examination point of view, what is an algorithm, how many different types of algorithm paradigms that we have, and how to compare one paradigm with the other one. Okay, so what is an algorithm? To begin with, an algorithm is a step-by-step procedure to solve a problem. I think we have discussed it a number of times that an algorithm tells you the procedure of how we are going to solve a problem. But does it also tell you the procedure to be followed or the exact steps to be done? The answer is no. Consider two terms. One is called algorithm and the other one is known as pseudocode. Now, what is the difference between algorithm and a pseudocode? Is, for example, if I say swap the two numbers. So swap the two numbers. So this is a step. This is a step of an algorithm which says swap two numbers. But how we are going to swap these two numbers will not be given in the algorithm. For example, if I say find the shortest element in the list, this is also a step of an algorithm, but it does not discuss the details of how we are going to find the shortest element in the list. Whereas, what is a pseudocode? Pseudocode is quite close to a program, but it is not a program, but it is quite close to a program. For example, like I said, there is a step number one which says swap two numbers or find the shortest element in the list. If I have to write the pseudocode for the swapping of the two numbers, then I will say temp is equal to number one is equal to number 2 and number 2 is equal to temp. So these are the three steps that actually are part of the pseudocode equivalent to swap the two numbers in the algorithm. So I hope you are able to understand what is the difference between an algorithm and pseudocode. And here we are talking about an algorithm is a step-by-step procedure. What are the steps to be taken, but we do not discuss those steps in detail. Okay. So how many types of paradigms that we have? This is one very important question that can come in your exams, is discuss various programming paradigms, or they can ask you specifically that explain the following paradigm of the programming, or even they can ask you to compare the two programming paradigms. For example, compare brute force with greedy with the dynamic, or divide and conquer with dynamic. So you should be able to do that. For that, it is important that you understand what is the primary objective of every programming paradigm one. Second is that you should be able to understand what are the pros and cons of that particular paradigm. And then only you can make a comparison between two programming paradigms. So let us first try and understand what is a brute force algorithm. Now, brute force in itself, the name itself is explanatory, self-explanatory. Here, what we do is we are not following any one particular procedure or taking, you can say, hints from the calculations or the directions. Brute force means we are going to search all the possible solutions and all the search spaces. For example, traveling salesman problem from one city to the other city is related to finding a path that results in the minimum cost from the starting city to back to the starting city. All the programming languages will start with some procedure where we are going to move, how the calculation is done, how the path is selected. But in case of brute force algorithm, what we are going to do is we are going to follow all the paths that start from the starting city. We are not going to leave anything. Till the last, we are going to compute all the possible solutions that we have. And then in the end, we are going to pick up the one which has the lowest cost. Similar is the minimum spanning tree, shortest path. These all are the solutions for which we are going to consider all the possible candidates is called the brute force. This is the most basic and the simplest type of algorithm. Algorithm is straightforward approach to a problem, that is seeing the problem. More technically, it is just iterating every possibility available to solve the problem. So what can be the advantage of the brute force? Obviously, if I have n number of solutions to my problem and I am going to consider each and every solution, that naturally means I am going to find the best solution for my problem. What are the disadvantages? This algorithm's computational cost is definitely the biggest disadvantage of this technique. If I am going to solve all the possible solutions and the value of n becomes extremely large, then obviously it is not possible, because the computation is going to take a lot of time. The memory requirement will be humongous. And for a problem that I can solve in a very little time, it may take exponential time to solve that problem. So while comparing, what are the two factors that are in my mind considering what is a brute force algorithm is that it obviously guarantees that I am going to find a best solution or the optimal solution, but the value of n cannot be too large. If the value of n is extremely large, then comes the disadvantage that the computational cost or the computational time for solving the problem will be exponentially large, and moreover the memory requirement will be huge as well. Then comes your greedy algorithm. It is a complete reversal of what we have in terms of the first one, that is brute force. So greedy algorithm, what it does is, rather than considering each and every solution, it also follows the approach that is pretty self-explanatory from its name, is that it is going to take greedy steps. If we have, let's say, for finding the shortest path from source to destination, given source to destination, if it has 20 paths, the greedy algorithm will select the current path with the minimum cost, and it is going to ignore all other paths. So obviously, if we are going to ignore all other paths and going to follow the one with the current shortest value for the path, it is obviously going to result in very less computation and the solution will be determined in very less time. But because we are ignoring so many paths and only following a single path which considers the current local optimal solution, it is obviously not guaranteeing that the best solution. And sometimes the solutions can also be extremely bad. But where does the advantage of the greedy algorithm lies is in the fact that the solution can be returned in very less time with very less computation. The solution is built part by part. The decision to choose the next part is done on the basis that is that it gives the intermediate benefit. So total benefit or the global optima is not considered. So how do I compare the greedy with the brute force? Very easy. The brute force focus is on finding the optimal solution, whereas the greedy algorithm's objective is to find a solution that may or may not be the best. And brute force, because it is simple to design and it considers the whole search space, takes a lot of time to find the solution, whereas a greedy algorithm can return the solution to you in the shortest possible time. And in fact, the greedy algorithm can return the solution in less time than any other programming paradigm. Next is recursion. You have already done recursion. There are many solutions that can be solved recursively. So what happens in recursion is a problem is solved by breaking it into sub problems and the same type and calling on self again and again until the problem is solved with the help of the base condition. So what happens here is that we are able to express any problem in using some kind of a recursive function. For example, factorial. What is the factorial of n? The factorial of n is equal to factorial of n minus 1 plus n. So if I am able to recursively, or I am able to define a recursive function for each problem, then that problem can be solved with the help of recursion. Why? Because every time I am going to break the problem and call the same step again and again. What is very important is that with every step we are going to reach a base condition and we are going to return from that base condition. What is the base condition for the factorial? When the factorial of 0 we are supposed to find, it is equal to 1, or factorial of 1 is equal to 1. Once from factorial of n, after n minus 1 steps, we reach to factorial of 1. And then that base condition is met and we start to return. What is the advantage? Obviously, the advantage lies in the simplicity that once we are able to define a recursive function, then the problem becomes very easy to solve. But the disadvantage lies in the fact that lot of repetitions are possible. Means we already know the answer, but there is an overlapping and we are solving each solution again and again. And the amount of memory required for using the recursive methodology is also very high because stacks need to be implemented. And sometimes when the solution becomes very large, there are errors related to the stack overflow. So recursive advantage is that we can break a larger problem into sub problems which are pretty similar in nature, and they can be solved using a same type of recursive function. Next is divide and conquer, quite similar, or in fact almost very similar to the recursive algorithms, but here it is not that we are using some recursive function which is similar in nature. So each problem is solved using a definite value of n, and then those solutions, once the sub problem is broken into the lowest levels, then those problems are solved and then the result is joined back together to find the solution to the main input. So in divide and conquer algorithms, the idea is to solve the problem in two sections. What are those two sections? The first section divides the problem into sub problems of the same type. So that means in the first go, what we are going to do is we are going to continuously divide the problem into sub problems. So we have one main problem, we divide it into two sub problems, then those two sub problems can further be divided into sub problems, and we go on. So once the problem has been divided into the lowest possible sub problem, which cannot be further subdivided, the second section is to solve the smaller sub problems independently and then add the combined results to produce the final result. One of the best examples for this could be merge sort. So obviously, by dividing the problem into sub problems, we are able to break the problem into such a small problem that solution to those sub problems is very easy. But what is the problem with divide and conquer? The same problem that we were facing with the recursion. The divide and conquer, when divides the problem into sub problem, there are certain situations in which the overlapping is done, and because it is top to bottom approach, we may be solving many sub problems which are overlapping in nature again and again. That means we have while we were dividing the sub problems, we may have hundreds of sub problems which are same, and then all those sub problems are being solved independently because there is no knowledge that we have sub problems of same type, same input. So what happens is, the problem with divide and conquer is that there is repetitive execution of the overlapped problems. Further, is there any other problem with divide and conquer? If I think of what are the other possible problems that I may face with divide and conquer, is that sometimes when we combine the results, these are very basic problems that are given at the bottom: binary search, merge sort, quick sort. It is okay. But let us suppose that we are trying to find the MS minimum spanning tree, or I am trying to find the, you can say, any other problem for which when we combine those two results, two independent sets. Let's suppose that we have find the solution for one independent sub problem, and we have also find the solution for the other independent problem. And when we try to combine those two problems, they may not satisfy. They may not satisfy because when the two sub problems are solution to two sub problems are merged, they may not follow the basic principle of the solution. So sometimes that can also be a challenge. So divide and conquer, where it takes the advantage that the larger problem is divided into sub problems, and then those small sub problems can be easily solved. There are obviously disadvantages associated with, you can say, multiple solutions or multiple computation of the same sub problem. Plus, when we try to combine the results of two sub problems, they may not fit into the principal solution. So sometimes we have to reject it. Dynamic programming is considered to be one of the best programming paradigms because it produces the optimal result in lesser time, but is sometimes difficult to design. The objective of any good programming paradigm would be to design a dynamic programming paradigm for the solution. For example, if we have, let's say, computing minimum spanning tree can be solution to the minimum spanning tree can be designed using the greedy, also can maybe designed using divide and conquer and dynamic for sure. So what is the problem with dynamic is that sometimes for a certain set of problems, it may not be easy to construct a dynamic solution. But then why are we considering that dynamic is one of the best solutions? Let us consider it. What is divide and conquer? Divide and conquer starts from the top, and then it divides the problem into sub problems at the bottom. But what happens to the solution? The solution starts from bottom and then it moves upwards. So what it results into is the, you can say, duplicate computations of the same subproblems. Whereas in dynamic programming, we have the knowledge of the solutions of the subproblems. If we have the same subproblem that is spread over, let's say, 50 or 100 times, there will be no need to recompute the same because we are aware of those. Tables can be maintained like in knapsack problem. We have already done one solution with the help of knapsack problem where the sub solutions tables are maintained. If we have to recompute it, then we can refer to that table and there will be no need to recompute the same sum problem again, which means that there will be a lot of, you can say, saving of the time, computation time. So what is dynamic programming? It is known as memorization technique, exactly fitting what I told. I told you that it memorizes that how many sub problems are there, which sub problems have been solved, and what are their solutions, so that when we next try to solve that sub problem, we are aware whether the solution for the same has been computed or not. If the solution has not been computed, we will solve it. Otherwise, if the solution is available, we will refer to that. Because in this, The idea is to store the previously calculated results. हम लोग previously calculated results को सेव करके रखेंगे. क्यों सेव करके रखेंगे? To avoid calculating it again and again. Divide and conquer ऐसा नहीं करता है, या कोई भी जो हम सॉल्यूशंस की बात कर रहे हैं वो ऐसा नहीं करता है. एंड दिस इज द बिगेस्ट advantage of dynamic programming over the divide and conquer is that it memorizes which solutions have already been computed, so that we don't have to compute the solution for those sub problems again and again, and hence saving the time. In dynamic programming, divides the complex problem into smaller overlapping problems and storing the results for the future use. Like I said, you can solve it with the help of dynamic divide and conquer also, or dynamic also. Dynamic will produce fast and quick results, and for very complex problems which are exponential in nature, divide and conquer may not be the best, because it may not give you the result in you can say polynomial time, or it may take too much of time. Whereas dynamic programming, with the help of its memorization technique, can give you results in lesser time. Backtracking. What is a backtracking? In the backtracking algorithm, the problem is solved in an incremental way. That means step by step. It is an algorithm technique for solving problems recursively by trying to build a solution incrementally, one piece at a time. So we are not focusing on the overall solution. We are trying to solve it step by step, incrementally, one by one, removing those solutions that satisfy the constraints of any problem at a given time. So for example, in an n queen problem, we start from placing one queen at a particular row or column, and then we try to see which are the other rows and columns in which we can fit the queen, so that it satisfy the constraint. Okay, so while considering the next row, the columns which do not satisfy the constraint will be ignored, and only the one that satisfy the constraint will be considered. And then we will look for the next row, and then the next row, and up to the last. So what happens in n queen problem is that one row at a time is considered, and second thing is only the columns which satisfy the constraint are considered, and the other ones are ignored. So backtracking is another very important programming paradigm. So it obviously takes lesser time than the divide and conquer, or the you can say brute force, because it continuously ignores the solutions which do not satisfy the constraints. And there are some specific problems for which the backtracking algorithm is the obvious programming paradigms that we can use. There are a number of problems that have been listed below for which we can use the backtracking algorithm. We have already discussed what is randomized algorithms. Randomized algorithms are the one which makes the random choices and then build upon those random choices to find the ultimate solution. So the final solution definitely depends upon the random choices that we make. So if we run the randomized algorithm for the same set of inputs again and again, there is a possibility that we may find different solutions. But again, why we are using randomized algorithms? Because sometimes there is a time constraint in which we need to find the solution in a lesser time. So we are using the randomized algorithms. Min cut, finding the min cut of a graph is one of the best examples of randomized algorithms, in which the random choices are made to club the vertices. Randomized algorithms are very important algorithms because they help in reducing the time that it is required to solve a certain problem. The only thing is how the random choices are made, for which a number of randomized algorithms are available, which we can select carefully. And again, like I said, randomized algorithms, again, if I try to understand the introduction to it, it will not guarantee that we are going to get the best solution. Okay, but obviously it is going to give me a very good solution in a lesser time. Next is approximate algorithms. Introduction is very important. Like I said, if we want to compare it with other algorithms, there are two types of solutions that we talk about. One is called the exact solution or an optimal solution or an approximate solution. Exact solution is if I say find the shortest path, that means the shortest path is a value which is the minimum value and there is no other value for the solution that can be less than that. So that is called the shortest path. A path which gives you the minimum value and there is no other path that can give you a value less than that path. So we call it as an exact or an optimal solution. So what is an approximate solution? A solution which is a short path, but I do not guarantee that it is the shortest path. So we have applied some, you can say, algorithm, some logic into it so that we can find a solution in lesser time and it will give me a short path, but it may or may not be the shortest. So that means there is a possibility that if I want to check whether there exists a path which is even shorter than the solution given by the approximate algorithm, then you may find it. So approximation is what? Approximation is one which says that I am able to find a solution which is acceptable, but it may not be the best. That is called the approximation algorithms or approximate algorithms. Algorithms that are capable of finding an optimal solution for any problem are known as exact algorithms. तो बिल्कुल जब मैंने कहा maximize something, then the maximum value of something is called the exact solution. Then what is an approximate algorithm? For all these problems, all those problems where it is not possible to find the most optimized solution, an approximation algorithm is used. Why we are not using the exact algorithm? Because it may take too much of time and I don't want to spend too much of time. Or it may not be possible to find the solution for a given n problem in specified time. So I'm going to use approximation algorithm so that I can find a solution which is very close to optimal, which is acceptable in a definite period of time. So that is where I am using the approximation algorithms. But again, if I want to make a comparison and if I know the introduction to this, then yes, I can compare approximation with any other algorithm, stating that it does not attempt to find the optimal solution. It tries to find the solution that is acceptable. And in the, you can say, course of action, you may even find the optimal solution. But the approximation algorithms are designed keeping in mind that you may never be able to find the optimal solution. Next is heuristics. Heuristic algorithm is one that is designed to solve the problem again in a faster and more efficient fashion than traditional methods by sacrificing optimality. Again, why we are moving towards these set of algorithms is because it is not possible to design the exact solutions for a particular problem or a very complex problem in polynomial time. And what we want is we want the solutions in polynomial or a definite time. Okay, so that is why we are switching from one paradigm to the other paradigm, because the idea is to find a solution in lesser time. So heuristic algorithms are again a set of algorithms that can give me a solution in polynomial time. But what it will do, again the same, it will sacrifice the optimality, that means the exact solution, accuracy, precision, completeness for speed. What I am going to achieve is speed. Heuristic algorithms are used for NP complete problems, which are kind of hard problems and take a lot of time to solve. So why we call them as heuristic algorithms? Because they take, you can say, references from the already computed solutions. Heuristic means learning from the past. So whatever steps that we have computed, they learn from those steps, they take the computations from those steps and build the further paths. That is why they are known as heuristics in nature. But again, uh, the only idea is that we are trying to improve the time or reduce the value of the time by compromising on the optimality and the, you can say, accuracy. And then similarly, you will have to learn the advantages and disadvantages of various algorithms. Some of the advantages and disadvantages are given in these notes, but for others, I request you to refer them from online sources or books so that you can make a better comparison between the two programming paradigms. Like, what is brute force? I have already told you what is brute force. If I want to know what are the advantages and disadvantages of brute force, the advantages are that the brute force approach is guaranteed to find the optimal solution. क्योंकि उसने कोई solution छोड़ा ही नहीं है, उसने सारे solutions निकाले हैं, तो obviously it is guaranteed to find the optimal solution. So this is one of the algorithms which is guaranteed to find the optimal solution. Then it is a generic method, means it can be implemented to all types of problems. It is not limited to one set of problems, it can be implemented to all types of problems. The brute force method is basically used for smaller problems. When the problem becomes very large, the brute force is not effective at all. It is known for its simplicity because it is simple to design, easy steps. What is the disadvantage of brute force? The brute force is practically, for a very large problem, inefficient because of its complexity. As you can see here, is extremely large and factorial. You cannot use this brute force for very large practical problems. The method relies more on compromising the power of computer system than on algorithm. Algorithm बनाने की तरफ ध्यान नहीं है, लेकिन कंप्यूटर की पावर यूज, कंप्यूटिंग पावर यूज करने की तरफ ध्यान है. Brute force are slow, they take a lot of time, they unnecessarily waste the compute power of the computing system, and then brute force algorithms are not constructive or creative as compared to other algorithms. Similarly, we have greedy algorithms. Greedy algorithms ke advantages and disadvantages are given. What are the advantages? That it is easy to implement, it takes lesser time. Greedy algorithms can be used for finding the problems which are generally and hard in nature. Why? Because it is greedy in nature. It just considers the local optimal or the best solution at the current time, ignoring everything else. So that naturally means it can solve the very large and hard problems in limited time. Disadvantage, clear disadvantage is that it focuses more on the local optimal solution than the global optimal solution, which means that it does not guarantee that it is going to give a good solution. Sometimes the solutions are extremely wrong. So similarly, you can find the pros and cons of many other algorithms. And then based upon that, once we have the introduction available, we can also compare. For example, divide and conquer. Divide and conquer and dynamic are two interrelated problems for which the comparison has been given here. Okay, recursively breaks, it helps to efficiently solve the problem. Sub problems are independent, sub problems are interdependent, recursive, non-recursive, and like this. Similarly, greedy and dynamic can also be compared, or any other algorithm. Two programming paradigms can be compared. Please go through these notes and make a mind on how you are going to define the pros and cons and compare the two programming paradigms. Thank you very much.